Affirmative hope is any speaker.
Resolved that there is a truer, higher reality beyond what most people experience. Reality, the state or quality of having existence or substance. Transcendence, existence or experience beyond the normal or physical. Spirituality, the quality of being concerned with the human spirit or soul as opposed to material or physical things. We all have different perceptions on life. However, it is important to understand that perception is not reality. Objective reality is how we all exist within the physical world and focuses on what we all know as facts. Social reality is created through our human interactions. This reality is made up of entities that we as humans have decided upon. This kind of reality affects the way we view the existence of higher powers. As humans, we are a part of a larger whole. There's something greater than ourselves. Higher powers are spiritual and believed to be transcendent. They don't just exist in our objective reality or just in our social reality, but in both. Psychologist Abraham Maslow created a hierarchy of needs. This model displays a list of basic human needs. At the top of the pyramid is self-actualization. Self-actualization occurs when a person achieves their full potential. Included in self-actualization is self-transcendence, which allows us certain experiences that result in a different outlook or perspective outside of our own. Through these experiences, we become more self-aware and serene. Our experiences shape what we know to be truer and higher. In Plato's The Allegory of the Cave, he tells a story of men who are chained up inside of a cave. They can only see shadows produced by a fire, and they can hear men walking past the cave. The prisoners are led to believe that the passing men exist because of the shadows, not because they can physically see them. Even when they are released from the cave and can no longer see the shadows, they still believe that the men were once there. When finally released, they will be blinded by the sun and will not be able to see the reality in front of them at first. But once they get used to it, they will come to love their new and vibrant reality. They will be able to see the sun through their reflections in the water, and then, at that moment, they will understand their place in the world. In other words, they would experience self-transcendence. When they return to the cave after being exposed to the light, it appears much darker than before. For the men who never left the cave, that was their true reality because that's all that they knew. When the others were released, they experienced a truer reality because they experienced something better than before. For Christians, the cave would be earth, and the world outside of the cave would be heaven. Heaven is said to be more beautiful than anything we have known. As Christians get closer to being like Jesus through prayer, worship, and living a holy life, they see a glimpse of the light, which makes the natural world seem dull. You may ask yourself, what does all of this information have to do with the resolution? My answer to that question is everything. Think of your digital footprint within the collection of everyone else's in the world. Think of your position as a son or daughter within all the generations of your family. Think of yourself as a citizen within an entire country. We are always a part of something larger than ourselves, and this concept does not stop at our physical reality. Abstract concepts like love, fear, and courage let us know that just because we cannot see something does not mean it's not there at all. There's always room to think higher.
All right. And now we'll hear from our negative rebuttal speaker, Ms. Phillips.
Why is it that the reality we experience now, one presumably composed of us who are still in darkness, according to Plato, is considered to not be beyond the truest and highest? Is it not merely faith or pure idealism to believe that there is a truer and higher reality other than reality we experience now? There is proof of our reality. This reality is evidently and purely defined by our existence, our history, our science, our culture, and the earth that we live on today. The existence of beings and objects outside of our reality is simply the belief in the lack belief in the idea of transcendence and the lack of belief in the support of immanence. I ask, what satisfactory proof is there of this true or high reality, but is not simply defined by individual transcendence, but is not based on spiritual awakening or based on religious belief? Plato claimed that any knowledge gained by senses is simply one's own belief or opinions. But in order to gain real knowledge, to escape from the thing that he claims to limit us, is to enrich the soul and aim for spiritual enlightenment. Then that will supposedly cause one to be able to access this higher reality. If that is the case, then how would you explain consciousness, which is awareness of one's surrounding based on senses and perception? Will you deem it only an illusory belief system because it's based off of senses and not necessarily content and advanced knowledge? Finally, that leaves the question of whether you include the idea of consciousness into this high reality. If not, then do you believe that without consciousness, we can still grasp the concept of reality or even still be considered people?
All right. You ready, Ms. Leach?
Yes, sir. Reality is defined as all that is real or existent within a system. If something does not exist in the system, then it's considered imaginary. We can't say that something is known if it hasn't been experienced in our own, if we haven't experienced it for ourselves. It may or may not exist, but we don't know if we don't have the proof that, but we don't know, and more importantly, cannot know, because the mind, by definition, is limited. Therefore, the knowledge that we have is limited. We're only limited to our experience. However, if something does not exist when it's not known, that something must be part of the same reality or mind, the same reality that the body or mind is a part of. Therefore, whatever the reality of the experience of this body and mind must also be the reality of that something, because there can't be two realities. Plato created the concept of Platonic idealism, in which another reality existed, but only in one's mind. If that's possible, that suggests that it cannot be scientifically proven. The physical things we see every day are a part of the reality that we personally experience. If it only exists within the mind, our conscious, then it's considered imaginary, as there are no physical entities outside of the body that proves its existence and can support that there's another reality. In Allegory of the Cave, Plato talks about how relying on the physical sense of reality will make you blind to the other realities. But if we see life through our own lens, which projects the only reality we know, we won't be susceptible to the other realities that exist, because this is all that we know. He claims that we're ignorant because we only believe what we see and what we've already experienced, but technically that doesn't make us ignorant. That just proves that we each experience our own reality, and to us that shows that there's not another reality beyond what we experience, because we only know what we've been exposed to. Also, many people argue that there's a higher reality based on spiritual beliefs, such as the existence of heaven or hell, and they're taught to believe that when they pass on, they'll transcend into a new and better reality. But that also can't be proven until they reach that location. It's not possible for them to report that and show evidence that it did exist once it passed on, because they'll be in that other life if there is one. This can also be considered as imaginary because it doesn't exist within the system of reality that we already know and have already experienced. So we can't prove it to exist. I'm sorry.
Are you finished, Ms. Leach? All right, Ms. Beans.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. The first speaker from the affirmative side has already displayed a great deal of knowledge that proves that there's a truer, higher reality beyond what most people experience. This is indeed true and can be proven with evidence that supports a higher reality. What is the meaning of self-transcendence? For instance, although people may view self-transcendence in ways that vary based on their own values, the general idea behind it is the same. Self-transcendence is at its core about transcending or rising above the self and relating to that which is greater than the self. In simpler terms, it is in the realization that you are only one small part of a greater whole and acting accordingly. That which is greater than the self can be a range of things: human beings in general, nature, the universe, divine power, etc. It doesn't matter what the greater thing is, only that there is something greater than the self. Our opponents may disagree and try to validate that there are false beliefs, broad imaginations. She even believes that unless something is scientifically proven, it can't possibly be true. She continues to validate that point and says that if something is not known, then we can't say it exists. There's a quote that says, some things in this world doesn't require proof, and even science can't prove some. We can't see our forefathers, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. They do, but you didn't see. Whenever you feel lucky, it's because of God. You can't see him, yet you can feel his blessings. Believe in God because what you see is not everything. So I ask, does your faith solely depend on the fate of science? Can scientific evidence not be wrong? Is personal experience and evidence signs showing a higher reality exists not enough for one to say they know that there is a true higher reality? Another point that was mentioned was false beliefs and people having broad imaginations. A false belief understanding is that an individual's belief or representation about the world isn't true or may differ from reality. Who's to say that one's reality is false? In the Bible, it states, "Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God. For many false prophets have gone out into the world." There's plenty of lies and false teachings out in the world, some that may steer others from the truth. It could be found in what you think is true relating to science, or other things in which you may see as true that may be false. To further my point about a higher power existing, I'll end with this. When we admit that we are powerless, we go to recognize that we need a power greater than ourselves to restore. Look deeper and you will find it.
Okay, so we have a 3-minute closing from Ms. Phillips, and then 3-minute closing from Ms. Means, and then we'll be done. Ms. Phillips.
There is no evidence of a truer, higher reality. Reality we experience now is the only reality there is. According to Aristotle, this reality is not a lesser copy of a more ideal or real one, but it is the reality, not some ideal version of it that does not exist. We are conscious beings who are only shrouded by the unknown or hidden within this reality that we experience, not some reality beyond it. According to the theory of immanence, everything we hear, see, or touch is within our reasoning. It is based on our experiences with the material world. Reality is an objective idea. We all live and experience the same reality. A subjective reality does not exist, only subjective perception. To say that there is more to reality than what we can currently mentally and physically account for is mysticism and transcendence. It is a denial and downplay of the development of the consciousness. The biologist Darwin, with his theory of Darwinism, explains a lot about why we experience the world the way we do, rather in the peculiar way humans manifest it to be. For example, we experience reality in the most beneficial way that we can to keep us alive. It is all about survival. For instance, humans seeing and experiencing reality in the eyes of a dog would not be able to survive, and a dog seeing and experiencing reality in the eyes or place of a human would not be able to survive either. With that being said, we see and experience reality the way it is and what it always has been. Everything on earth experiences the same reality, so there is no higher or truer reality, just perception of it is different.
You can go ahead, Ms. Means.
Okay. Spirituality is a broad concept with room for many perspectives. In general, it includes a sense of connection to something bigger than ourselves, and it typically involves a search for meaning in life. As such, it is a universal human experience, something that touches us all. The good news is that you have complete freedom to define your own higher power. You don't have to follow the path of traditional religions, and you don't have to believe in anything in particular just because other people want you to. You can choose to believe in anything that makes sense to you and gives you strength, courage, and something to hold on to. Some people can sense it in nature. The sun, the stars are bright, beautiful, and powerful. The wind can be a strong reminder that there is a commanding force moving through the universe. You can witness the power of nature in storms, in oceans, in the seasons, or the universe itself as your higher power. With that being said, everyone can have a truer, higher reality by their own definition. For some, it can be religion, meditation, self-transcendence, but it's up to you to determine that. However, it is a true higher power within us all and doesn't need to be proven by science or anyone else to determine its validity. Thank you.